Lee. So I would like the Buzz to put up the talk of my title, my title talk.
Coming up.
Okay, and I'll cue you because I know I gave you slides late. So the talk of my title is The True Nature of Religion, and it was inspired because last week, I believe, the Acorn came to interview me, and what they wanted to interview me about, and it's in the paper, there's an ongoing series, and I'm not sure where I'll appear, but it's an ongoing series of different religious organizations, and how media has affected them, and what is important to them. Well, this was all happening when Ronan was like getting ready to be born and stuff, and I forgot to look at what media I really like. So, so she said, "Well, what TV shows do you watch?" And I didn't want to tell her the Murder Channel, and the Hitler Channel, and the History Channel. So I said, "Well, I really don't watch it." I don't. I watch a lot of Netflix and Prime and everything now. But I thought, I can't say I watch the Murder Channel. Anyway, and she said, "Well, what films inspired you?" Now this girl's 22 years old, and I had just done not that long ago the Valentine's Day service where I wrapped some of my favorite love classic films in with Valentine's Day and what they represented in that metaphysical beingness. And so I thought, and I said, well, the first film that really inspired me, and some of you know this, and it changed my life. There's two events, there's many events, but in younger years, there were two events that changed my entire life. And one was, I'm pretty sure I was 4 years old, and they re-released The Wizard of Oz that was made in 1939. And my dad took us, my sister and I, to the Pantages Theater. We always went to the movies with my dad on Sunday, and we sat in the balcony. And when that rainbow came on, when Dorothy opens the door from Kansas after the cyclone, and that rainbow came on, I had never seen color before. We had a TV, but it was black and white. And so when they opened that door, and I went, oh my goodness. And then the story was so magical to me. It was like an ecstatic experience for a child, who was pure and was waiting for that pure information. And then the other one, and some of us have had these experiences before, and I told you this, I was about 11 years old. I was at the ocean in Santa Monica, right by the pier, and I was body surfing, and in a nanosecond, and I couldn't even articulate it, what it was, but I couldn't articulate how I felt, but in a nanosecond, I bet it seemed like eternity. I knew I was the sun, the salt, the sand, the wave, the water. I was it all. And it was profound to me, and I was so young I couldn't articulate those feelings. And it changed my life. It changed my life in the sense that I wanted that back. I wanted it back without drugs too. It would have been, I thought that would have been the best, to not do drugs. So anyway, no, at 11, what do you know? So anyway, I didn't even think about it for a long time. And in later years, I researched Frank L. Baum. I know a lot about him right now. And he was a theosophist. And so you want to put Frank L. Baum's picture up, Buzz? And of course, he wrote many things, but he wrote the Wizard of Oz series. And he was a theosophist, and the theosophists were really revealed through Henry Olcott and Helena Blavatsky. And Helena Blavatsky and Henry Olcott they traveled the world, and they found that there was a fine thread throughout all of the religions, and the theosophists believed that intuitive sense. There he is, he's very little. He was a little man with big ideas. I didn't know he was that little. In the picture when I gave it to Buzz. Anyway, so the theosophists believe that there is that divine intuition that brings ecstasy to you and connects you with all of nature, that there's only the one, the one, the one. And so when the Marcia, that's okay. I don't know how to tell you this. But anyway, so the one, the one, the one. And so then he and he married someone named Maud Gage, and Maud Gage's mother, Matilda Gage, was a theosophist way back in the early 19th century. And so if you could put up the next one, which is Helena Blavatsky, and she may be little too. I'm not sure. the next photo of Helena Blavatsky.
They're not labeled, so I'm guessing.
Okay, she looks very Russian and very matronly, and so sorry, Buzz. So anyway, well, not Judy. No, not Judy. So
All those women look the same to me.
wait till I tell Buzz she looks like Helena Blavatsky when you see her. She looks like a Russian princess, and I think she's in color. I'm not sure, but anyway.
Is she
So,
in flowers?
huh?
Is she in flowers?
I don't know. I'm sorry. No, that's Judy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Outside
She's
box.
sitting, she has a bun on top of her head. That's okay. So anyway, bottom line is Helena Blavatsky, along with Henry Alcott, was part of the Theosophists. And they didn't found the Theosophists, but they were in India. And again, the Theosophists believed in the oneness of everything. There was a Hindu hint to it, and there was a Buddhism hint to it. And so they came, and I believe it was a man named Charles Ledbetter, and I don't know that much about him. I know he wrote tons of books on travel and religion and a lot of things. And he was walking along the beach one day, and he was a Theosophist. And there she is. There's Helena. I can't wait to tell Lynn she looks just like her. So anyway, so anyway, this Charles Ledbetter, who was a Theosophist, goes to, and he's walking along the beach, and he sees this young, inarticulate, beautiful Indian boy, and it happens to be Judah Krishnamurti. And they were looking for the second coming, I want to say, or something. They knew that someone was going to be coming onto the planet that would be teaching the world all of the essence of all of the religions. He was going to be the world's greatest teacher of spirituality. And so he said there was an aura around him that was incredible. And so they more or less tried to get him into that mold of being that one teacher, that world's greatest teacher. And they brought him, Helena Blavatsky, along with Annie Besant, who was a student of Helena Blavatsky's. And the reason I'm telling you this, it's all Ojai. Annie Besant founded the Happy Valley School. Helena Blavatsky had centers everywhere, including Hollywood, and then founded Crotona and Ojai, and it is still there, and I invite you to visit. They're both incredible places. So Annie Besant was Helena Blavatsky's student. She actually adopted and took guardianship of J. Krishnamurti, who eventually broke away from her, and he said, I'm not that. I may be wise, and he learned the English language and was reading English within 4 or 5 months after being introduced to English from India. But when he came to, yes, he was enlightened. He said, I am not the enlightened one, though. Yes, I am awake, I'm enlightened, but I'm not the one that is more awake than any place else. So this energy that they knew, which was activated through that spiritual tie that they had. They used to call it the silver cord, that would actually connect you with source, and then you would be like in ecstasy and your intuition would be highly, highly motivated. So Ernest Holmes, around the same time, now all of these new thought people blossomed worldwide, and there was no communication, all around the same time. So if you ever think, they say the 100th monkey theory doesn't really exist, that the 100th monkey, where one monkey on some island washed some kind of fruit or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden all the islands all around, all the monkeys were washing the fruit. And they say that's not true. I've heard recently. But in that thought system, all of these new thought ideas and philosophies popped up everywhere. And Ernest Holmes was part of that. He and, oh my goodness, Emerson, there were so many great writers and thinkers at that time that were connected. Ernest Holmes said, Life is infinite energy coupled with limitless creative imagination. It is invisible essence and substance of every visible form. Its nature is goodness, truth, wisdom, and beauty, as well as energy and imagination. Our highest satisfaction comes from a sense of conscious union with the invisible life. All human endeavor is an attempt to get back to first principles, to find such an inward wholeness that all sense of fear, doubt, and uncertainty vanishes. And so he was right in the flow of everything, in that oneness, knowing that there was something that was monotheistic, only the one, no duality, no splits in anything. And it wasn't God and, it was God and me. God and me one, and I want to communicate with Source, and I want that personal relationship with the divine. And so that's what they were all trying to tell you, is the divine is within, and you connect, and you have that personal conversation, that personal knowing of the divine, whatever you want to call it, that's within you. So that was their absolute goal. So Helena Blavatsky was basically one of the movers and shakers of the New Thought movement, and she by the way, she was a princess. She married a prince or a king or something in Russia, and she said, just as J. Krishnamurti said, "This is not me." She ran away. She was a child bride, and she ran away to the rest of the. Said, "No, I'm not staying with this dude." And then she found it. So Annie Besant is there too, Buzz. There's a picture of Annie Besant, and if you want to bring her up, if not, if you can't find her, don't worry about it. Okay. Yay!
They don't have names, I have to bring them.
Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
But maybe they're in order.
Not really. Some of this I did this morning, like at 6 in the morning. Not really. I would like to say they were. No, it was a test. And so far, Buzz is doing really well. Let's see if he passed the test. So, Frank L. Baum was a passionate theosophist. And so all of his books and all of his writing really were the metaphysical. And of course, one of his greatest works of art was The Wizard of Oz. And it's all metaphysical, and it all has that those symbols that represent that metaphysical knowing that there's something greater than we are to teach. He was also, Frank L. Baum was the first children's writer that didn't put anything scary in his books, and he did not scary, no romance whatsoever. He said kids don't need romance, they need to learn and explore. So he took all of the femme fatales and the princes and everything out of his books and just made real people having real experiences and real children having real children experience as well. So in 1890, he wrote these series of articles also for the Aberdeen paper in Kansas. So, because that's where they were from. They lived in different places. And the Theosophical Society, not only was he involved with his mother-in-law, who was a theosophist, but he wrote these articles for the Theosophical Society, and then they got into the Aberdeen, Kansas newspapers to show the oneness and the connectedness. And it is The Wizard of Oz is a children's fairy tale that is totally filled with occult symbols, as I say, and spiritual allegories. And the characters all the characters and all their adventures mirror those symbols of who we are and what we go through to come out on that higher side and know that we are always home. We've never left home. The divine is within us. So we're going to now put Dorothy up. Our wonderful Dorothy. And I've talked about the Wizard of Oz before, but in a different context too. So there is our wonderful Judy Garland. And it's, you don't have to play the song, honey. I'm sorry. He did it for us. So she is just amazing. And by the way, these are behind the scenes, and I've told this before. She was 14, and she had breasts, and they had to tape her down, and they put her on diet pills, and uppers and downers through her entire. It's because she had to look like a little girl. They didn't want her because she looked too much like a teenager, and they wanted a little girl. So, and what she went through was really, really horrendous during the filming of this little girl, and who actually saved her in some ways from Louis B. Mayer and everybody else on the MGM lot at that time in 1939 was Maud Gage, Frank L. Baum's wife, because Maud Gage was still alive, but Frank L. Baum had left the planet, and they lived in Culver City, and so she was the consultant. But beyond the consultant, she would go to Judy and say, you know, you can have more than a lettuce leaf for lunch, you know, and things like this. But no wonder Judy Garland had such a rough life. Her chemicals were messed up from the moment she was born, and she was also born to be a star. Her mother wanted her to be a star. Her dad was kind of lackadaisical, and so her mother took over her life. So in The Wizard of Oz, it begins with Dorothy in Kansas, and she represents the material world, or the physical world with all its conflicts. And at the lowest point, the nadir of her existence is the lowest, the absolute lowest point. No one's speaking to her. Toto is being threatened by the wicked witch there, the teacher that has her bite. Everybody's getting ready for a storm to come. And then what happens? Everything comes together in that energetic pattern, and the cyclone comes. And so she is taken out of that material world into the metaphysical world, so to speak, when the house lands in Kansas. She's taken out, but her consciousness isn't. So she lands on the Wicked Witch, who is, and the Wicked Witch, who is constantly threatening her throughout her whole self. And that Wicked Witch is like the shadow self of all of us. We think we're doing so great, and then the shadow comes in and says, you think you're doing so great? Well, here, look at this. And so then we step away from who we are and knowing who we are, that intuitive good within us, and say, oh, I should look at this. Yeah. Oh, there she is. Yeah.
There's our shadow.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. She is really a shadow self in that. So she had to follow what happened to her. She had no other choice. And it really means that she was following her path to illumination and awakening. And she is transported by all that is not right in her life, the turmoil and everything, because it is her soul's journey, and it ascends from the lower of consciousness into the of matter into the higher spiritual world. And Frank L. Baum even explained this in later years about where it came from and his consciousness at the time. So before she begins her journey, she is given silver shoes in the story, but in the movie, they changed those silver slippers into red slippers because it looked better on the yellow brick road. They could see it more in color. And that was like one of the first color movies, I think, that they did, was The Wizard of Oz. So she comes out, and she comes out and she goes along the yellow brick road. Now, what does the yellow brick road represent? Where she's at, and then it spirals out and out and out until she meets the group. And there and the straw man, the brain. And so they go on this journey, and it is almost the wizards that are there are not always good for her. The queen is always after her. And throughout this journey, even when she goes to the castle where the flying monkeys are, that always scared me the most, yeah, as a kid. But even when she goes to the castle, Toto is still with her. Toto, and what does Toto do? He runs away a lot. And what is Toto? Toto is always, she'll be talking to Toto. Toto looks at her, but he doesn't talk back. And she'll say, oh, Toto, which way do we go? And so she listens to everything that Toto's saying, because Toto, in this This is her intuition. It is the equivalent of her intuition. So she has to listen kind of closely to what Toto is saying. And if Toto is not saying what she wants, sometimes she's, oh, that's not going to work, and he runs away. And so she has to come back into her center constantly, chase Toto down, and then come back into her center so she knows what's happening. At the end, when they all go in the basket, by the way, Toto, before they're even in the balloon, and they're all getting in, and now they've decided that the wizard is a fake. They know he is a fake, and that he's just a little man behind the booth doing everything, and now they know that he is no more powerful than they are. But as you remember, the Tin Man now has a watch for a heart, and he can hear it, so he knows he has feelings. And the straw man has a diploma saying he is the head of, I think it's philosophical something or the other. He's got his doctorate in that. And then the lion has courage. And so he says, look at you, you've brought us all here, and you have the courage. So at the very end of the story, though, Dorothy is supposed to get in, and a cat is going by. Toto chases the cat, and here she is. She is out of the basket and is left there behind, and she cries, and she said, everybody got what they wanted but me. And part of it was Toto had to let her know that she still didn't get what she wanted, and that what she really wanted, and what we all want, is that spiritual connection, to know that we are, I am, you are, all together one with Source, and that no matter what, our life is unfolding perfectly, that we've never left home, we've always had home, and it's our place to tune into it. So the good witch comes and clicks her heels 3 times, and she's up and she's back, and all of a sudden wakes up with all of, the farm hands, which are the characters in front of her, and they don't believe her one bit. And so after all that is said and done, the brains, the heart, and the courage needed to complete Dorothy, the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion's Quest were found within each one of them, and the one must rely on oneself to obtain salvation and the knowingness of the divine and awakening to the divine within. So there is no danger that dauntless courage cannot conquer. There is not a trial that a spotless purity cannot pass through. There is no difficulty a strong intellect cannot surmount. And so what I wish for you is that in your meditation, we believe in meditation and prayer, and I can tell you meditation has changed my life. It's taken me back to those moments of ecstasy in the quiet where I know that there is only oneness happening at all times, and it's up to me to stop the monkey mind and to open up and listen deeply about my steps, find my intuition. So it's all within us, and I invite you to meditate, pray, click your heels 3 times, go down on your knees, whatever it takes for you to get back to Source. And so it is, and that's the way it is. Yay! Yay!